Proposition 1D, same thing except different revenue source. This one's the millionaire surcharge. I know all of you millionaires in the audience are very, very upset about how you pay 1% surcharge. I don't pay it, thankfully, but nevertheless, what we're doing here, or what the legislature is attempting to do, is to take that money, or a portion thereof, and obligate it to the state's obligations with regard to mental health. The last measure that you're going to consider is Proposition 1F. And this is the one that's going to have 95% support because it's pretty simple and it's pretty easy to understand. Basically, it says the legislature cannot enjoy pay raise in bad budget times. Kind of a duh type of thing. That was put on the ballot at the last minute. That one is pulling off the charts. Again, I expect that will have between 80 and 90% of the vote. The problem, though, with these packages is what happens on May 20th, particularly if all of the polling that exists now holds true, and they are all defeated. My in-laws live in Sherlock. They are the bellwether voter of the state. When I ask, how did you vote? And they tell me, that pretty is my good sense of how things are going to turn out in this state with regards to propositions. My father-in-law, who's pretty sophisticated, former mayor of Sherlock, kind of gets this stuff to a degree. He just voted no on it. Didn't read the ballot pamphlet, just voted no. My mother-in-law, who, as you know, behind any great mayor is her wife, and she can go from there. She was a little more discriminating. She voted no on the first 5 and voted yes on measures to screw over the legislative favor. So that goes again to the thing. So the bottom line is I do see, based upon my scientific polling, that measures are going to go down, and the issue is what are the consequences? Well, there's a short-term consequence, a long-term consequence, a political consequence, and a fiscal consequence. Kind of that core box thing. I will tell you that none of these consequences are pretty, whether you live in a rural county, an urban county, or anywhere else in the state, because it is real and it is a problem. The first, I'll deal with the fiscal crisis, because the bottom line is you're going to miss $5 billion from the lack of a lottery bond, and you're going to miss about $600 to $700 million from those shifts I talked about under 1D and 1E. So you have a $5.7 billion missing obligation that you have to fill. That's on top of whatever is missing in the state coffers because we're in a recession, in a deep recession. Folks just are not paying a lot of property tax, sales tax, income tax, banking corporation tax, all of those things. So it will create the double whammy, and it will require the legislature to have to meet and figure out how do we get out of what is somewhere between a $14, $15 billion hole starting July 1. So I suspect that you will turn on Channel 3 News or any of the other media outlets most of July, and you'll see these politicians arguing in the state capitol, and you'll have these reporters live from the capitol where they're there all night trying to work out a deal. You will start to see that again. The one thing you will not see, though, that you have had in previous years is the notion that providers of state services, i.e. vendors, not getting paid. That won't happen this year because there is a state budget in place. It is just horribly out of balance. But because there is a technical authorization plan, people who provide services to the state as vendors will get paid. Now, that's if there is cash in the bank to pay you. But nevertheless, that's another thing I'll come to in a minute. So that'll be the first consequence, is that there'll be a huge hole. And it means problems for me in my daily job as a lobbyist advocating for rural counties, because one of the things that's on the table to meet that goal is to take property taxes away from counties and cities and shift them up to the state in a short-term manner, thereby creating havoc or more havoc in counties if that comes to be. The next is political. What's the consequences politically? Well, the consequences is that you will have more of a meltdown. Keep in mind, in Sacramento, you have a very polarized legislature, meaning you have very conservative Republicans and very, very liberal Democrats with very few people in the Senate. 120 legislators, I can probably name 5 or 6 people in the Senate. So that leaves you about 115 people. And I mean really conservative, and I mean really liberal just share a completely different view of the world. And they're also influenced by various interest groups that, with all due respect, control their fate. For example, one of the Republicans who voted for this package because it increases taxes is being threatened with a recall, and quite frankly, he's in serious trouble holding on to his seat. When you have that kind of gamesmanship going on, particularly within the Republican Party, that shows you how polarized folks are. You see a lot of labor organizations funding the No campaign proposition. They are very upset at the Democrats for allowing these measures to appear on the ballot, forcing them to spend money to defeat. There will be consequences politically with the leadership in Sacramento. And all that will mean, yes, more political gains that you'll see reading the Bee or the Union or watching TV, but for folks like us who are advocating on your behalf, so to speak, it creates more and more political chaos, more and more political meltdown. It starts again to speak to where we want to go as a state. And quite frankly, though, I don't think anyone has the magic bullet, magic solution to get out of it. The long-term fiscal problem is that the state will continue to perpetually be in pot. In other words, these shortfalls, these deficits will continue to stay with us. They will just either get larger or smaller, depending on the year, depending on how much economic activity occurs. And that's just unfortunate because it doesn't have to be. But nevertheless, that's what we're going to have to deal with. What it means, again, is programs that counties rely on and municipal services that many in this room enjoy are going to be at risk. I don't know how many property owners are in the room, but if you're under a Williamson Act contract, you're going to have to revisit that. And the county's going to have to revisit it for you. If you enjoy, at least 24-hour sheriff patrols, that's going to have to be revisited because there may not be enough money in rural counties to fund them. If you are if you care about the social safety network in your county, i.e., some people having access to health care and other human services, whether it's drug and alcohol rehab or whatnot, again, if you enjoy the belief that courts are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, that's another thing that's going to have to be revisited because courts may close midweek for a couple times a month to get through this political meltdown, this fiscal meltdown that exists. Quite frankly, it's just a very, very, very difficult situation. Again, I told you I wasn't Santa Claus, and I think I'm proving it to you now. I wish I could tell you that there were solutions out there to solve this problem. I guess from a rural county perspective, at least what my county supervisors tell me is, well, in rural counties, we've never had great times, and they've always been tough, so we'll just get through this. And it'll be tough, but, we're used to it. And I guess that's probably true. Lastly, let me talk about the cash flow problem, because this is another thing that you'll need to understand if you're staying involved and plugged into what's going on. And it is somewhat unrelated to where we are fiscally, but it is related to where we are fiscally. And that is the state right now is facing a $20 billion cash flow crisis by the end of the summer. Like many of you, you have periods of the year where you have a paycheck or you have income, and then there are periods, maybe months, where you don't. And you might use your Visa card or you might go get a loan from a bank. Well, the state operates the same way. There are periods of the calendar where it gets cashed, this time of the year being one of them. And then payments are made. Well, come July and August and September, where payments are going out and very little revenue is coming in, there's going to be a crisis that the state has never seen before because it just doesn't have any cash. And more importantly, there's not a lot of cash in the world lying around. Maybe the Chinese have it, I don't know. But in the West right now, there's not a lot of cash out there to lend to entities. And so the state's going to be in this situation where it has obligations to pay folks, and it has no cash to do that. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time in Sacramento dealing with that crisis. Thankfully, I don't draw a state paycheck, so I think I'm going to be okay. But maybe my bank, who provides a lot of services to the state, will. So it's going to impact everybody, whether you are directly employed to the state or not. I have done a great job of putting you to sleep or to rush you. community, all of us in this room, whether we are in Calaveras or Tuolumne or in San Diego or LA, we need to start thinking as a people, as residents, about what we want the state to do, to be, and where we want it to be. And we have to have an honest discussion about how we want to pay for all of that. Because this stuff isn't free and it's certainly not cheap. What I'm talking about is, do we want a state university system that is relatively inexpensive for students to access? And do we want to have a lot of campuses? Do we want to have 3 segments, a community college segment, a state system, and a UC system? We need to ask whether we really want to house 175,000 felons in the state. And if we do, how will we manage that? And we have to ask ourselves whether we want to house another 200,000 folks either awaiting trial or serving time in county facilities. We need to ask ourselves whether or not we want a state workforce, a county workforce that has relatively nice pensions and relatively nice benefits, health care, and otherwise. We need to ask ourselves all of those questions. We need to ask ourselves what level of money do we want to provide for K-12 education. And so I think leaving you today, I think that's the message I would have for you, is to start thinking about where do you want the state to be. There are a lot of people who say, I'm done. I don't want to pay more taxes. I don't really care. And that's good, but we need to know that. And that voice needs to be shared and hopefully influenced with others who share a different perspective, and we can figure out where to go from there. But that's really what it's about. It's about what you want from your community, which is, again, the first thing I opened with is saying thank you to many of you who operate businesses, because you've made a choice about your community already. There are a lot of people who own businesses or whatnot who don't join the chamber or who don't come to functions like this to be educated and learn about what's going on. And quite frankly, that's a disappointment. But nevertheless, you have already made a choice. So I'm going to ask you to think about another choice, and that is, what do you want your state, what do you want your county to look like, and what are you willing to pay to meet that desire, if you're willing to pay at all. So with that, I'm going to stop. I will, again, be glad to answer any questions that I can, whether they're technical or global in nature. And with that, I want to also say thank you for allowing me to come here. It was a pleasure. Great lunch, nice drive, beautiful campus. We're all very, very blessed to live in this area. I don't live in such a nice area. I live in a nice area, but not like this. So it's always a treat to come up to places like this. Sir, you have another question?
Yeah, I understand the state's problem with expenses. Obviously, they're tied to a lot of things that they don't have control over at this point in time, and it's just going to cost money. But I don't see a lot of effort in job creation going on here in the state of California. And I see all these bills that are presented on an annual basis that are so ridiculous, that have nothing to do with job creation, but are just totally ridiculous. Why don't these legislators wake up to the fact that we need to put people to work, and that's going to solve their problem in the long term?
It's a sentiment I share, and my clients share that. I agree with you wholeheartedly, just personally. The problem is twofold. You have legislators who don't share that perspective because they see it differently. For example, I will have such a meeting like that, expressing those concerns, and the point will be, that's great, but I have constituents who don't even see a dentist for the first 10 years of their life. And shouldn't we somehow, in this state, provide that type of benefit? And so they're worried about those types of issues long before they are about job creation. Even though they make the argument that you can't pay for dental care if you don't have tax base to do it. But they don't look at it that way. There's also folks who believe this story that, oh, yeah, I've heard everything. I've been here 20 years, been through this recession, been through that recession, been through this recession. Let's just do it now. Let's provide whatever service that I want to provide. The state will come back. You know, we always go through peaks and valleys, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the third type of legislator, in my opinion, who's very beholden to interest groups that don't care. That just don't care. They just 32 members of the assembly to 29. And quite frankly, they'll be lucky if they hold on to 29 seats in the next election. So that's, you have fundamental math problems as well. Yes, sir.
With millions and millions of dollars being spent to debate the pros and cons of caged chickens in the state of California, is the proposition system broken? Is it effective?
Absolutely. Completely broken. Absolutely. No question. Again, the measures you're going to consider on May 19th are not from that process. They were put on there by the legislature, and they were put there because they had to. But you're right. Caged chickens, what have we voted on the last 10 years? It just seems utterly ridiculous.
Well, I think cell phone, the use of cell phones is important, but there are much more important matters to be decided in Sacramento than dumping these things on the citizenry and then asking lobbyists to line up pro and con and pour millions and millions of dollars on supporting or against.
The problem with the initiative process is every time you go to change it, the voters don't like it. Because the voters feel it's their last check on the legislature and the other aspects of the state government. And as dysfunctional and broken as it is, the electorate as a whole doesn't want to change it because A, there's suspect of whatever that change is, and we think it's going to manipulate somebody somewhere to get something that otherwise couldn't. Or they just, again, believe it's the issue of the 2/3 vote. It takes 2/3 to pass a budget, it takes 2/3 to raise tax, 2/3 vote in the legislature. It is